Hey everybody. A couple of days ago I posted a video of this box on my Facebook page, and it is a favor for a baby shower, and it's an explosion box with a baby carriage inside. And you could fill the baby carriage with anything. You can put candies in there, maybe baby socks, anything you want. And then these two panels have room for maybe a picture of the baby, or a thank you card, a thank you note. And then these two crisscross panels are actually pockets, maybe a gift card or an extra note in there. But this was what I came up with. And then on the outside, I just used the Stampin' Up! Big letter dies and put the word baby on there. So I'm actually going to recreate this box right now and do it in a boy version. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the carriage first. And what you're going to need is a piece of paper, cardstock that's 6 by 7 5/8. And what you're going to do is you're actually going to score it. All these little tabs are at 5/8 inches. And I'm actually going to flip this over because with my notes, my scores are on the other end. So we're going to score at 5/8, 1 1/4, 1 7/8, 2 1/2, 3 1/8, and then 3 3/4. This gap here for the base of the carriage, I wanted it to be 2 inches. So after the 3 3/4, I added 2 inches. So the next score will be 5 3/4, then 6 3/8, and then 7. So that makes each of these strip panels 5/8 of an inch. What you're going to do at this point is on both ends, top and bottom, you're going to find the center of each of those 5/8 panels, and if you want to eyeball it, you can go ahead and eyeball it. If you want the exact center, it's 5/16, which would be the center of this. And you use your piercing mat. You're going to use your piercing mat, and you're going to go ahead and you're going to pierce a hole in the center. And this hole is what's going to be able to catch into the brad. Now you're going to make a hole in all these panels. Don't make a hole in this one, and you'll see why later. If you do the hole here, it may not line up with the rest of these. It's just easier when you put the brad and everything else, you just push it through this piece of cardstock. Once you're done with the piercing, what you're going to do is you're going to create the triangle. So to do that, you're going to find the center point, which would be 1 inch because this is a 2-inch piece. So you just make a little mark, and then you go from corner to corner with the ruler, and you're going to make a line, and then do the same thing this way and do the same on the top. And what you're going to do is you're going to get rid of these pieces and you're going to toss them out. So I'm going to go ahead and do this side with you. And I usually draw everything in pencil so that it's easily erasable if I end up with pencil marks on the actual piece. Okay, so these are garbage, you don't need them. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take your scissors and you're going to snip all of these so you have these slits. Okay, now I've already done that, and the next step is make sure that all your scores just fold. And I don't worry too much about burnishing, I just kind of make sure the paper gives a little, and then open it back up and make sure you do the other direction. Now, you're going to need 2 brads. Whatever color you like is fine. And what I actually did is I start from the top of the carriage and work my way down. So I take a brad and I just put it through the top piece. And then I just slowly start to add all the other ones. Now, it might feel like the paper is trying to fight you, but that's because you need to make sure your slits are right to the score line, and you add each under the one before it. Okay, so there's my top part of the carriage. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this triangle in, and I'm going to start adhering, adding these 3, the bottom part. Now, the bottom part, you're going to have to, rather than go under, well, it won't matter, but just be careful with the corners. You can go in the same direction, so make the next one go under the first, but you're going to have to be careful. Or you could do it this way, where the first one goes under. Just be careful with your corners. So we're going to add these slowly. And there's my last one. Okay. Now, here's why we did not poke a hole in here. It doesn't line up with the brad. So what you're going to do now is really just push on that brad into that, sorry, with my hands, that triangle piece. Just push into it until it pops through, and there's the brad. It does get kind of thick in here, so you are just going to work with this and you're going to push the paper. If you need to, you can use your piercing tool to open the brad up a little bit, just to kind of get your fingers in there. There we go. And then just press it down on either end of the prongs. There we go. So the prongs are open in there, and the triangle really doesn't show. So now you're going to repeat the same thing on the other side. So we're going to put the brad in the top panel. And remember, this time you have to add the strips in the same direction you went the first time. So the first one was on top, so everything else goes underneath. And the reason you do that is because of the lines going in the same direction. Okay, so my top pieces are in. Push the triangle down. And we now start adding the last 3. And just squeeze the cardstock in because it's so thick. And just pop it through the triangle piece. Now, because the carriage is up, this might be a little bit cumbersome to get that brad open, but make sure you just kind of use something like a piercing tool to get it open, and then just push. And I'm sorry if you can't see it right now, but that's because the other end of the carriage is closed already, but I did exactly the same thing I did on the first side. So there's your carriage. Okay, that's the base. I did take some ribbon, and this is our silver 1/8 inch ribbon. On the girl one I used the gold, And I put some sticky strip on the back, and this is just easier to do right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach it on the top of the carriage. Just line it up to the edge of the very first panel. That's it. And then just go all the way around. Oops. Sorry if I'm off camera, but it's just a little easier to make it straighter. Now, if your ribbon is a little too long, just be careful when you get to the end. Just stop by the edge and then trim that off. There we go. And you can kind of play with this and just kind of make it go in a little flatter. Alright, so the next step is to create the handle for the carriage. And for the handle, you need a strip that is 3.5 by 1/2 inch. And on the 3.5 side, you're going to score at 3/4 and 2 3/4. Just kind of push these. Okay. And I like using my sticky strip or tear tape. That's what we call it now. And you add this on both ends. And then we're going to bring it in to the sides of the carriage. Now, I don't really measure here. Just one thing I forgot. Do not let your tear tape go all the way up to the score line, because you want some of that handle to be higher than the carriage. So just kind of bring this down. If you made the mistake already, just, there we go. So you see my score is a little bit higher than the base of the carriage. And then you turn this around. And I eyeball, so this is only going to be as straight as can be. So there's the handle to push the carriage. And now we're going to do the wheels. But before we get to the wheels, you do need a base piece that is 1/2 inch wide by 5.5 long. And I've already wrapped this around, but you're going to score it at 1/2 inch, 1, 3, 3.5, and 4. And just fold on the scores, and what you end up with is a piece that wraps around itself to make this base. And this will get attached down here so that we can stick it down in the middle of the card. But we're going to add this after the tires. Now, with the wheels for the carriage, I used the 1-inch circle punch and did the base in Marina Mist. And then I did use a small scallop circle punch that is now retired in Tempting Turquoise and just centered that. Then you're going to take these and you're going to poke a hole in the center of each tire, of each wheel, and put a brad through it. And when you do that, I like to use liquid glue on here. And what you're going to do is actually put the glue on the top part of one of the sides of the brad. Just like this. And let's do this. Oops. Let's do this upside down. So I'm going to line the brad to the edge of the bottom. Now if you notice, it's right at the edge. That's the way I get them even, because if I put the brad right in the center, I'm good to go. Okay, so now I'm going to glue the rest of these on. And just use your green bottle of Tombow for this. I think it's a little easier, and it gives you a couple of seconds to kind of maneuver the tire if you need to, because it is wet glue. And then just hold it till it sticks. Okay. And then you're going to turn the carriage over and do the same on the other side. Okay, and the last one. Okay, so all the tires now are on. Now you don't want to try and stand it right now, because if the glue is still wet, they will pop off. This needs a minute to dry before you can actually let it stand on there. But since this base piece was 1 inch and half is ½ inch, that's why I made this piece to be ½ inch high. So it is just as high as these tires. So now we're going to add the glue to this and put it on the bottom. Just in the center. This really is not going to be seen. So just hold this down for a second. Okay. And then just take a piece of tear tape just to make this panel ready. Now if the glue is not really dry on this piece, just be careful when you add the tear tape not to move it. Then carriage is done, and you're just going to set it aside until you're ready to put it into your box. Okay. Alright, so now we're going to start working on the actual box. And what you need is a 12 by 12 sheet of paper, and you're going to break it down into 4-inch segments. So since it's 12, you're going to have 3 sections that are 4 inches. So you're going to score at 4 and 8, and then you're going to turn and score at 4 and 8. You're going to take your scissors and you're going to cut up to the score line and then down to the score line so that you have these flaps. Okay, make sure you fold everything. Fold on all sides. Okay, so the outside is ready. And then here's the inside, the opposite part. Now I've already matted some of this. You're going to mat in a T shape. And since each of these is 4 inches, I went down 1/4 inch. So the white pieces are 3/4 by 3/4. So that's the inside part. So that's these. Now, yes, you're going to have pink here, but that's because we're going to fold the pages, and you'll see how that's done. Now, before I move on to actually doing all the folds, these pieces, the ones without the white on the inside, are the ones that are going to get folded. So we don't put anything on the outside. We don't need to put anything on the back of this one. So this is empty, these are empty, and so are the bottom ones. Okay, so if I flip this, okay, nothing here, 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 or here. Leave it alone. These letters go on on the sides in the plus shape. So that's what we're going to do, and we're going to actually mat those now because it's a lot easier when your cardstock is flat. So it'll be B, A. Now remember, you have to flip the letters as you're going. So you either flip the letters or just turn the cardstock. And I'm going to do the Y right now. I like to use wet glue for this, only because it gives me a minute to do my layering. Okay. And I use 1/4 inch borders, so that means, whoops, okay, that means the white piece is 3 3/4, the blue is 3 1/2 square, and then this one is 3 1/4 square. So it's 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. The blue is 3 1/2 by 3 1/2, and the white is 3 1/4 by 3 1/4. Okay, and then I just take my last letter. And center that. And this is going to go here. So we can do this right now, since our paper is all flat. And you just center the entire panel. Now your Tombow glue does dry clear, so you don't need to worry about it. And if you're worried about putting these panels on the wrong way, just turn your paper as you go, if that just makes it easier for you. Okay, so we're going to give this some time to dry. In the meantime, we're going to work on the other side. Now, getting the folds on these pockets. What you're doing is you're going to bring the side panel over. If I'm off camera, let's do this. You're going to bring this over the panel, and then you're going to take this corner and bring it down here by lining this edge up. So what I do is I kind of just put my fingernail in there, and I bring this back, and you're going to line this up to the edge of this cardstock. Okay, and then you just fold. Yeah. And for this, you can use your tear and tape. I like to make sure that these panels are down. You don't need much, but I just kind of do this. And just tape it down. Now you're going to do the same with this one. You're going to bring it over, and this time you're going to go from here to here. making sure that you line up the end. There we go. Okay. Take a piece of tear tape. And that is now down. Okay. Now, to make sure that the pocket is sealed, you're just going to put a small line of Tombow here and put this down, and then you're going to put a small line of Tombow here and then put this down on that one. Okay, you don't need much. So you're going to push this down and bring this one right on top. Okay, and then we're going to turn this around and we're going to repeat on the other side. And it doesn't matter which side you do first. Tear tape. Do this one, bring the corner back, and one last piece of tear tape. And then we do the Tombow. And I just bring mine close up to me so that way I can control how much Tombow I put down. Okay, so there's my strip of Tombow. Push this down. And there's the other one. You just want to kind of hold these down for a bit just to make sure you give the glue a minute to dry. And then there's your box. Okay. I may need to use a bone folder for this, just to make sure. Okay, so now I'm gonna leave the carriage. Actually, it won't make a difference. We can do that right now. You can peel the backing off the tear tape on the bottom, and we can put the carriage in. Actually, hold on. I don't seem to have enough glue in there. You want to make sure that when you put your Tombow, you actually have enough in there and you do hold it down. So that it seals the pocket. Otherwise, what you could do is just put a strip of tear tape down there and it'll just be faster. I just don't like to use tear tape in pockets because when you put something in there, the tear tape is tacky and it'll just keep catching on it. Okay, so that one should be okay now. Let's see. Yep, need more on that side too. Okay. In the meantime, while I hold these down, what I did was I took our Moon Baby stamp set and I used these two images. I stamped them and colored them, and then I cut them out. And this guy, the umbrella tore off while I was cutting, but that's not that big of a deal. We can fix that when we put it down with our dimensionals. And then I also punched out some circles, and I used the Showers of Happiness sentiment from the same stamp set. And I backed each of these with dimensionals because we're going to pop those up. Okay, and this should be okay now. So this little guy, we're going to remove all the dimensionals from the back. And I'm glad I didn't put the carriage in because I just remembered we've got to do some stamping. So we're going to add this little guy here. Just make sure that when you adhere it, you're not letting the star get too close to this score line, otherwise it'll buckle when you kind of fold this up. Okay, and we're going to turn this around, and we're going to do this guy, but we're going to add some clouds. And I used the clouds from the Weather Together stamp set. So I'm using the clouds and just use Marina Mist. And I put a couple of clouds right there. That was all I did. So then we're going to peel the backing off of this guy. And again, make sure that we stay away from the bottom. Adhere him. And then we take the umbrella with the dimensional on it and just put that right there as if it never ripped off. There we go. And I took these. And you can change the sentiment, you could do anything. I mean, this is a versatile box. You can turn it into something for a bridal shower. And so the clouds are done. Now the stars are also from Moon Baby. So we're going to use the stars. And what I did was I took Daffodil Delight and I sort of turned it into a corner stamp. So I did one and two. And just repeat on the other side. Just choose which two diagonal corners. It didn't matter to me which two. There we go. And that's finished. Now is actually when we can add the carriage without making a big mess. So since I've already peeled this, I'm going to add the carriage right in the middle and just gently press. It's going to be hard to kind of put your fingers into the tab that you made, only because the wheels are there. So just sort of press it down and it'll stick and it'll be fine. So there you go. Okay, so your box is actually finished. And you're going to bring these up and you're going to put the lid on, which is what we're going to make now. So I'm going to set this aside. And for the lid, you need a piece of cardstock that measures 7 1/8 by 7 1/8, and you're going to score at 3/4 and 1 1/2 all the way around. So it'll be 3/4, 1 1/2, 3/4, 1 1/2. Do the same thing. Then we're going to make our slits. And I like making the slits in the same direction all the way around. So if I'm going up, then I turn 180 and I go up again. And what I did here was I have 2 panels so that I can reinforce the lid. But first we have to get rid of the 3 boxes on the outermost corners. So it'll look like an L shape that we're getting rid of. So we'll get rid of these. And then we'll get rid of this one. So you now have an L shape. And I miter these, so I kind of bring them in so that it's easier to fold these portions over. So you just turn this around and do the same thing. Get rid of the outer 3 corners and miter. Okay. You don't have to worry if your miter looks neat or not. I mean, it's going to be hidden under the tabs, so it won't really make a difference. But you just need them there so that you have room to fold over. And one more corner. Okay. Now, I want to layer this. I want to put my paneling on here before I fold this up because it's just a lot easier. And you're doing the same measurements for these layers. Nothing different than what you did on the inside. You have, if this is a 4-inch, then you're going to do 3 3/4 square, 3 1/2 square, and then 3 1/4 square. Now if you want to change your borders to an 1/8 inch, that's fine. If you want to only have 2 layers, that's also fine. Just depends on the look you're going for. Okay, so there's my last piece. And now I'm going to take my tear tape and put this down on all 4 tabs. Then I'm going to turn this over, and I need my tear tape on the outermost panel because that's the piece that folds in and sticks everything together. Okay, so first things first, we're going to do the tabs. And I just peel the tape off the backing and I line the edge of the side to the edge of the tab. And that's why mitering the tabs makes this a lot easier. There you go. And you just do the same thing going all the way around. finally the last corner. Okay. Now you see you have your tabs showing on the inside, and this is why I did that second layer, because I like everything to be nice and clean on the inside, plus it reinforces the box itself. So now we just peel everything off and push these down. Okay. Now when I do this, I like to work in opposite sides rather than going around. Pull the backing and fold. Just make sure you kind of push in there so that the tape really is adhered. And you're covering those tabs and everything is stuck together. There we go. And if you want to, just go one burnish around with your bone folder. Gives you crisp edges over here. And reinforces that tear tape. There we go. And there's our lid. So we're going to bring our box back in. And there we go. There's our box. And you could do anything to decorate the top. I actually made my own bows. So what I did was I took different lengths of ribbon and I actually layered all old ribbon because it kind of looked nice. I don't get rid of my ribbon. Just fold this over and then you fold the other side over, and because I'm an instant gratification kind of girl, I use my mini stapler and I staple that. So I do that for all of them. I do 3 in each length, so just play around with the lengths and see what you like. And then I do one that is just straight and I kind of turn it around into a loop. So I start with the largest and I put my tape on the back for all of them. So I leave the tape on one of them, but get rid of the other. And what you're doing is, since you have 3, you're kind of going to space these out where it looks nice. And I've done so many of these, so I just kind of eyeball it. So there's one panel. That's one layer. And then the others are going to kind of crisscross through here. So it'll be this way. So you peel this off. Let's remove the box. So your points will go in between. Just make sure that you're actually pushing down on everywhere that you put that tear tape in the back. And I kind of make it long so it sticks everywhere. So there's 2 layers to the bow. And now I'm going to do my 3rd layer, which I forgot to put tape on. Peel the backing, and again you're going to go in between the points. Okay, so there's the finished bow minus that center loop. So just peel it off and push that in there, and there's your bow. And then you're going to put a whole bunch of tear tape on the back. Because you definitely don't want this popping off the box. Okay, we bring our box in and push. And there we go. And there's your box all finished. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and you have a great time making these. Remember, these can be customized for any occasion, so have fun.